Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Today is the 26th of July, year of our Lord 2024. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Eagle, aka Motan Noah. Got a nice little show for you guys today to close out the week. Is it the end of the week? Is this the Monday? I don't know what day it is. There's a lot of stuff that I want to get through in the beginning and the top half of this episode. And I caught myself, because I was kind of going over it in my head and how I wanted to do the order of events. And I was like, I usually do the intro very rushed, and I kind of just try to jump into stuff. But I do want to, word to Rudy St. Clair, how we always start the shoot around every Wednesday is Rudy likes to do apologies up top. I think it would be, it's almost like a apology segment / housekeeping / like reading a bunch of your miscellaneous emails that maybe otherwise wouldn't have a place in the show, but I just kind of want to do a bunch of weird stuff up top. Okay. So the first thing that I want to comment on is in the previous episode, I falsely attributed Joe Biden dropping out of the presidential race. I attributed that breaking news to Shams Charania. You guys held me accountable. That was not true. Shams did not break that news. He tweeted it 4 minutes after Biden, tweeted a press release. So you guys were like, oh, Nick, he didn't actually break the news, so everything that you said was moot. No, it wasn't. Because even though you guys were right, and I was wrong about him breaking the news, why the fuck didn't he... Shams, the retweet button, you could have quote tweeted him. You could have done anything. My point of, what is this dude's fucking deal with, being addicted to breaking news? Why did Shams feel like a... Didn't, Woj retweet something about, Kamala getting the... It's like, see, that's how it's done. Weird. Also, the whole thing about Shams Charania breaking when Trump had COVID, I did some independent investigations. To the best of my ability, I believe that actually was still true, that Shams was the one who broke when Trump had COVID a couple of years ago. So the whole, he has New York Times sources thing that I was trying to get at is true to some degree, but just not in the... And then another thing that I meant to mention this a couple of episodes ago, when we were doing the active Hall of Famers in the NBA, and I had gotten the idea from a podcast, Wake and Jake? Is that what it was called? I didn't know what the show was, but I was still veering credit in their direction, something that we do not like to do on this show because this is my hour. It's not anybody else's hour. I don't want to talk about anybody else or, give them credit for anything, even if I'm stealing their ideas. But I did the right thing. I did the morally correct thing, and I gave them credit. I didn't know who they were, and you guys got really mad at me that I didn't know who John Boy was. Apparently, their show falls under the John Boy Media umbrella. For our international listeners who don't give a shit about baseball, John Boy Media is essentially like a baseball, a digital media conglomerate, and I am very well versed in the John Boy lore as a dude. As a content creator, I think he is hands down one of the best, right? The lip readings and shit. I watched 3 videos back to back last night about shit that's going on in the MLB. So I love him. With all due respect, I don't give a shit about anybody else who's... I don't care about anybody else who worked for him. So no, I didn't know who they were. Another thing, we had almost like a grizzly bear versus gorilla 2.0 situation unfold in the last episode. Not nearly as much animosity, no pun intended, as there was for the aforementioned dispute. But I asked you guys, if I'm playing Starfield and I'm in the shipbuilder for 2 hours... And my girlfriend's like, hey, you've been playing the game for 2 hours. I'm not even playing the game. I'm setting shit up so that I can play the game. I'm not playing the game. It would be like if I'm in 2K or in College Football 25 and I'm adjusting accessories and shit like that for an hour. I'm not playing the game. I'm setting shit up so that I can play the game. Only one of you agreed with me on that one. Not a ton of you. A lot of you said that was crazy and that was insane. I challenge all of you to think a little bit more critically about it and then realize that you're wrong and then come back to me on it. How does that one sound? And then what else was there? Surely there's another apology in there somewhere. I don't know if there is, but I will say there's been an influx of emails recently where I would just, what the hell are you guys talking about? copingoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email available in the description wherever it is that you listed this program. Just a lot of weird stuff. You guys will send really thoughtful emails, but there'll be 1 or 2 sentences that really stick out to me. One of them recently, I think maybe it was actually a YouTube comment, but was you always sound like you're high when you're doing the intro. I don't know what that means. And then there was another email just a couple of days ago where they were like, you have boxes that are right behind you. What are those boxes? First of all, don't look at shit behind me. Don't look at that. It's not for you. There's a reason that I'm covering the boxes behind me. Those boxes are not for you. But if you are using the show today, you're watching the show today, and you're not just listening to it, we have, what is this back here? So the first thing that we have is like what is this? I don't know what this is. Is this like memory? Is this RAM? I don't know what that is. And then we also, back here, we got a power supply. We got a big fucking, we got a big beefy power supply. And then under the power supply, which I will not be taking out of the box, is a 3090, which I was not able to get installed, but we'll be getting within the next, I don't know. Eventually I will, because I have a 3070 and I haven't needed. It's massive. I didn't realize. You think you know how big these 30 series, sorry, not the 30 series, but the 3090s specifically are. And then the 40 series, I can't even imagine how big those are. But when you actually see them, again, I'm sorry, I'm not going to take it out, but I was just saying, stop being invasive and asking me about what's behind me. It's not that invasive if you can see it in the frame. Just look at the nice little art that I have behind. That's all you guys need to worry about. Don't worry about boxes and shit like that. One of you guys called me out for a weed pen back here one time. I hated that. I was like, my grandma might read the comments, by the way. I don't need my grandma. My grandma knows it. My grandma knows about that. Let's do some other sort of on the margins emails that we've gotten recently. Actually, as a matter of fact, I want to read this one from Jackson, because copingoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically, email in the description wherever it is that you listen to the show. I meant to read this like a week ago. Subject line, weird moment at the NBA Summer League. Hey, Noah. I was watching the Hornets-Knicks Summer League game in person when I found out about the Trump assassination attempt, which, by the way, has nothing to do with anything else that happens in this email, but I appreciated them letting me know, so thank you, Jackson, for that. Weird vibes at Summer League, man. Everyone at the 4 p.m. Pistons 76ers game was shocked. We stayed until late in the game. We stayed until the late game Jazz Mavericks. My head was all over the place. I said something about a certain player to my dad. I said, player X really sucks. Such a letdown. He didn't name who the player was, I guess for specific reasons. That player's mom and girlfriend turned around. They were sitting right in front of me, completely going off on me for what I had said about their NBA son. I was honestly in shock and made me question a lot of things. As fans in the stands, should we not say anything negative about players? Was I unlucky? Is the player's mom/girlfriend wrong for shaming me for what I said to my dad in a semi-private conversation? This player was a very high draft pick in 2023. It wasn't someone trying to get a two-way like a lot of the other summer leaguers. What do you think I should have actually said in that situation? I would have loved to know what you did say. You didn't include that in the email. I would have loved to know, because you said, what should I have actually said? Well, what did you say, Jackson? That would have been great. That would have been good information here. Unfortunately, that was your chance. If you send a follow-up, I will read it, but I'm not gonna read it on the show. You mentioning, was I just unlucky? That sucks. That's brutal. That's all that it is. I'm sure that you had like a come to Jesus moment about like, I'm never, ever going to say anything mean about any player while I'm at a sporting event ever again. In the event that, but like you being at summer, it's a 1 in a million thing. It's easier when you're at an actual game and you kind of have an idea of where the friends and family section might be. Even if you don't know, like, are you in the nosebleeds? You're good, bro. Let it fly. You know what I mean? In this instance, summer league's hard because it's basically like the white party, but for general managers, executives, and NBA YouTubers. And like, that's it. You know what I mean? So there's people everywhere. There's no way that you could have known. It's just kind of, I don't know if this is the phrasing for it, but the charm of Summer League is like, you kind of just don't know who you're going to bump into. You know what I mean? Or who might be sitting around you. So if you ever go to a Summer League again, I'd maybe be more conscious of it, but like, no, I'm not. Also, I get this semi-private conversation. It's not, though. It's not. Just because you're not saying it to me, like if I'm sitting in front of you and somebody behind me says something like nuts, I might still say, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you're in the open, you're in public, just because you're like maybe like leaning over and whispering it. If there are people around you and you say something nuts, then people, I think, do have the right to check you on it. Just because it's like, hey, maybe chamber it until there's not a bunch of people around you. You know what I mean? If you really were that upset, I'm not saying this to you specifically. I don't need to keep diving into this. Just very unlucky, Jackson. That's all it was. Just very unlucky. Another email that was on the margins that I meant to read. It's mainly because I just don't have that much to say. This one comes into us from Andy. 2012 Detroit Tigers is the subject line. Dear Nick, brief email for you. I am currently late night watching my beloved San Francisco Giants 2010 highlights, a core memory of my adolescence. However, this reminiscing has brought me to ask what your memories and feelings are about the 2012 World Series appearance, Detroit Tigers. Pretty brutal memories, because when you think about the early 2010s Tigers, you're not just thinking about the fact that Miguel Cabrera, the Triple Crown was what? Well, that was 12, right? That was 2012. It was Yastrzemski in 67, and then I think it was either Miguel in 12 or 13. I think it would have been 12. So you had him, and we had Prince, and then you think about probably the greatest pitching rotation to ever not win a World Series. You had Justin Verlander, you had Max Scherzer, you had Rick Porcello, Anibal Sanchez, and David Price, right? That was the year that we got David Price at the deadline. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, didn't win a fucking World Series. That didn't happen. And I think as Tigers fans, and maybe how you get over it is you're like, yeah, but it was to those Giants that were in the middle of a dynasty. Was it 3 and 5 years? Is that what it was for San Francisco? It was like of the 2010s, it was like the first 3 odd number years, I think is what it was. Or you said 2012, so maybe it was the even number years. Maybe I'm conflating them with like the Blackhawks or something. I don't know. There were a lot of dynasties happening in the early 2010s. You had the damn... Yeah, you had a lot of you had a lot of them. That's what I got on that. It's probably the last time that I legitimately cared, because it was either the year before or maybe the year after that we lost to the Rangers in the playoffs, and then shit just kind of... Once they signed Miguel to that massive extension, knowing that he was only going to be good for like one of the years, and then the next 10 of them, it was just kind of like a, hey, thanks for what you did for the game of baseball. Like, I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it at all, because they had to do that. They should have done that. It was the right thing to do. But the team was and is unserious. Shout out to Skubal, though. Probably, if Paul Skeens didn't have a pulse, Skubal is probably... Skubal, yeah, is probably the best pitcher in baseball. Hey, we got another one here from T. Boogie. Frequent commenter, less frequent emailer. This one comes from us, I just said who it comes from. There's no email. It's just a fucking screenshot of a Paige Bueckers tweet. And from a couple days ago, seemingly, I know a Shirley Temple hate to see me coming. Yeah, I mean, yep. Facts. Same, Paige. I agree with that. Matter of fact, I just moments ago, 15 minutes ago, I downed Dirty Shirley before the show. Had to really really kind of level myself out a little bit, not maybe not be so tightly wound for today's show. So I agree with that. I guess maybe T. Boogie, I'm confused on why you sent this email in. Have I talked about Dirty Shirley's on the show, or Shirley Temple? Have I talked about that on the show before? My question with Paige Bueckers is, what the fuck is she still doing at school? Why is she still there? Because she could have come out this year. And then the more I think about it, I was like, oh, it was probably just that she wants to go number 1, and she knew she wasn't going to go over Caitlyn, which was a very astute assessment. And so if you just run it back for one more year, also maybe the knee injury, I don't know if there's some lingering shit from the ACL. She just wants to make sure she's real solid. Maybe she's perfectly fine this year. It seemed like, hooped out of her mind. So good for Paige Bueckers. Going back to UConn, very honorable, and also can take down a Dirty Shirley. So we rock with that. Let's see, ladies and gentlemen, what else do we got here? Very funny one. Very, very funny one from Michael. Whoops. So it's going all over the place. From Michael. Subject line, awful coaching fucking sucks. Michael, welcome to the show. Why anyone gives this guy their time of day perplexes me. The screaming is not for me, and his criticisms always feel like the worst negging of a soon-to-be divorced man. Do not waste your time. Oh, I'm sorry. Do not waste your time, Coping Hour populace. Just watch real games. Anyone can go freeze frame by freeze frame and point out mistakes. It's the last line that I read the email for. Because a lot of you, I don't remember how this came. Someone in an email last week or the other episode must have mentioned. What the fuck is the channel name? Thinking Basketball? Is that what it is? Awful Coaching. Sorry, not Thinking Basketball. Thinking Basketball is the one that everyone's like, oh my God, Thinking Basketball, oh my God. And then everybody I don't know if there's something to be said about the thinking basketballs and the, oh my God, man. I'm tired. Hold on. Save that for later. We will get back to that, I promise you, because there was an email where everything that I was about to say, I will end up saying. On the awful coaching, I'm so sorry. What is that awful coaching? Going freeze frame by freeze frame and pointing out mistakes is pretty funny. A lot of you guys in the comments had some disdain for this YouTube channel. I don't consume NBA YouTuber content, so I don't admittedly know. I've been honest about that in the past. There was a dude, I don't remember if it was at the beginning of this last season or maybe it was 2 seasons ago. I don't remember when it was. Maybe he's still around. I have no idea because I'm not on Twitter, so I don't really know. But a dude popped up on my radar, and he was like the NBA Twitter snitch. And he kind of does the same shit you're saying, where he just goes like freeze frame by freeze frame and like calls walks and like double dribbles and shit like that. It's just funny. Like he's just hating, and it's really, really funny. Shit like that is way cooler to me than people like when it's just some kid, when it's like a 25-year-old dude, like on YouTube, like to your point, he'll put up a whatever the gameplay is, and he'll put like arrows and shit around, and he's like talking about how much of a fucking dunce the coach is. You know, man, in this line of work, there are artists and there are entrepreneurs. I think a lot of NBA YouTubers fall under, all of them fall under the latter. Because, like, there are dudes, I feel like I just said something profound in my own perspective. And so I'm just really trying to think if I mean that or not. Do I think there is, because I'm not trying to say that that NBA YouTubers are disingenuous. I think there are a lot of them that are kidding themselves, and I think there are a lot of them that make the content that they do because they know how lucrative it is. And I'm not saying that as somebody who even watches their shit. I just know them as dudes. You know what I mean? And so that transparency is sort of easier to... I don't know. Whoa. Because I would, like, there are dudes in the landscape that, which maybe we'll just jump right into it now because we got an email about these two dudes. And the email itself was very, I'm just going to cut to when I can find it. Yeah, this email is insanely personal. So I'm not going to read it. But Olin, welcome to the show. Beautiful, beautiful email you wrote here, dude. Thank you so much for these words and for sharing your story. Thank you very, very much for this. But at the end, you said, I don't really have any basketball takes, but what's your take on Bill Simmons / his collaborations with Ryen Russillo? I love them together, and I think that they work well. But Twitter doesn't really fuck with Bill, and they think that he's made a decline. I was wondering your thoughts on this and how you think the episodes with Russillo will add. You guys, man, how many times I got to tell you to fucking double read these? Read these over 2 or 3 times. Side note, I love Russillo, and I think he does great solo content. Owen, thank you for the email. Let's actually be positive today. I'm usually negative to a fault. I think I'm like very hater pilled. I don't do it on purpose. I think it's just in nature, like a very hateful guy. Just I just have so much disdain and rage in my my heart. But Bill Simmons, man. The Podfather himself. I don't know. You want to talk about dudes who I know they mean it, and I know that they're being motherfucking for real. It's Bill and it's Ryen. And I've talked about both of them before, and I think in some ways, I hope in some ways it's obvious that my whole life has been Bill for a very, very long time. The Ryen thing, I've only been a Ryen guy for 6 or 7 years. Like when he and SVP were at ESPN, like doing radio, that wasn't on my radar at all. I didn't really know anything about that. It wasn't until Ryen went to the Ringer with Bill and was also doing those spots on PMT, on Pardon My Take, that I was like, who is this? I want to listen to this dude. And then also one of the reasons that we stopped doing Friday Feels wasn't just because it was making me a little bit miserable, just like because I was like, I don't know how to deal with any of this, and these are like real issues. was because it was, for me, it was sort of infringing on the life advice segment that Ryen does. And even though he didn't fucking invent that shit, it was because of how much I listened to him. To me, it was just like, dude, you know what you're doing here, and you just want to, try to capture that same thing. And so to me, it felt disingenuous, and that was one of the reasons that I stopped doing it. But Bill Simmons, for my entire life, has shown me that you do not need to sit in front of a microphone and talk about hammer plays and talk about point of attack and talk about all of this bullshit. Talk about fucking VORP. Huh? You literally, your analysis very much can be, that guy just goes out there, he just does stuff. And people will foam at the mouth and applaud, because you're right. Sometimes that's all that it is. People don't always want to be beat over the head with this bullshit, like all these fucking terms and all these fucking numbers. Some people, it's like why you consume the sport, and you really like to consume it on an analytical level, and you love to understand the inner workings of it. Mechanically, how does all of this shit work? I'm not like dogging on the medium, but for me, for how many people that I see try to be that guy when they are not that guy, they just listen to a lot of Zach Lowe, and then they just put out all of these buzzwords, like, right? Like, I went on a whole thing, though. I remember I get it together, Nick. One of the videos that Jacob, aka Rusty Buckets, let me, was that what I was from? I don't remember where I did this. It was a couple months ago, but he gave me the opportunity to do like a 5-minute segment in the middle of one of his videos, which was really fun. And I think I was basically just like, anybody who says heliocentric needs to fucking get over themselves. They need to stop. And just shit like that. It bothers me, right? Because it's like, there's not a sport in America, and I don't say the world because I'm sure soccer is it's a numbers thing. The billions of people watch it. I'm sure the amount of people who are like, oh, wait, what's like an advanced term for soccer that that's a total blind spot. I couldn't even fake it. Fuck, what was I saying? Shit! I was talking about people who use fake terms. I was on a roll, too. That sucks. I'll just steer the boat back in the direction of Bill and Ryen. Them as a duo, those Sunday night pods that they do, I think you'll get some of the most authentic insight that you can get. Because with, maybe I'll just say this about Bill, because it was kind of in line with what I was saying a second ago. For a few years, I did a bit where I was like, I'm literally just some guy. Like, don't ever think that I'm anything other than just some guy. You and me are the same person, right? I'm just on the internet and you're watching me. That is the only thing that's like unique about this relationship, but otherwise we are the same person. While I did used to mean that, it was also part of a bit because I also had some really bad ego issues. And now I'm at a point where it's like, I don't ever want to be perceived as anything other than that. I think a lot of that comes from Bill. And I think just in the same way that you can think, you don't have to have the most pristine and refined analysis of what you're watching, as long as what you're saying resonates with people and it's conveyed in a way or communicated in well, it's the same thing, that excites people, that entertains them. You know what I mean? Can you make pop culture references while you're talking about the 2020 Golden State Warriors? How many times can you circle back to the 86 Celtics? Shit like that. That's another big part of it. It's not just about, you can do this as just some guy. You don't have to have a fucking PhD in basketballonomics. It's also, no, dude, like, embrace your fandom. Like, be biased. It's okay. We are all biased. And when you go and you watch these networks, these halftime shows, you cut to the desk and everybody is wooden. Everybody's wooden, and they're getting fed from a producer in their ear. And that's not to say that Bill has never been, told what to say by a producer, because I'm sure he was at ESPN. But it's like, that dude's a loose fucking cannon. He always has been. I've read the book of basketball, right? I got it. My mom gave it to me as a Christmas present a couple of years ago. Can I tell you something about that book? I read every word of it. I don't read that many books. The only thing that I remember from that book was Bill Simmons talking about how he, and grandma, this is crass, pulled out on his wife's back. Like a real thing. in the book, he's just talking about how he pulled the goalie on his wife's back. That was the verbatim phrasing. That is what I remember from that book. And that is profoundly Bill. Right? So has he lost his fastball was the other part of that email. Reddit agrees, for what it's worth. Reddit also thinks that he's kind of just like, I don't know. But also, yeah, duh. The dude is probably more out of touch than he's ever been. I don't know if I mean that. I don't want, because I want to work for him. So I don't want to say that. Bill, please hire me. But I'm just like, okay, yeah, the dude has been living on the West Coast for how long now? How much did Spotify give him? How much equity does he have? What's the square footage on that house? Like, his kids are like they're growing up, and like in a couple years they'll be out and like going to college. Him and his wife just like microdose shrooms. He just like goes out on walks and shit like that all the time. He just power walks and like records YouTube shorts, which he actually stopped doing. He did it for a few months and then it inexplicably stopped. Because that's the other thing, man. So sorry, I was just saying all that to say, like, that dude's life is fucking made. We've been saying it on this show, by the way. It was like one of those things that I was told in confidence from somebody who like used to work at the Ringer, and then they left, and it was so. But there's been a word out there for years that Bill is out of there. Like, as soon as his contract is up, whatever he's ditching, and he's gonna go start a different thing. I don't know. The closer we get to his contract being up, which might be at the end of this year with Spot, I don't remember. I don't know. We'll see. But if that does happen, motherfucker, we've been saying it on this show for a year. We will not be taking a victory lap if Bill Simmons leaves the Ringer. Unless where he leaves is somewhere that I can work. Yeah, if it's somewhere that I can work. And it's funny to me that what I really appreciate about him is that he will like shoehorn himself into other Ringer pods just because like he wants to talk about shit. Like if they're talking about like, I don't know, like what's a pop culture show that they have, but like there was something where he got like an advanced screening of Succession, of like a major episode where I don't want to spoil anything because that to me is the greatest piece of monoculture that has ever existed. And I'm never going to give any spoilers for that fucking show because I think it's the greatest show that's ever been made. Talk about knowing when to quit. Oh my God. Beautiful show. But he got an advanced screening of the show and then went on a Ringer pod to give what if this thing happens? Knowing that he already knew that thing fucking happened just so he could look like a genius. I love that shit because that is 100% something that I would do. Are you kidding me? If I have information ahead of time, I'm 100% sitting in front of a microphone and being like, hey, what if this thing happens? So that way, knowing that it will, so that way you all can come back here and be like, whoa, what about this guy? I love that shit. I love that so much. And Ryen is very unapologetically, I'm spending a lot of time talking about two dudes who will never know who I am. Shut up, dude. It doesn't need to be like this. It's not about that at all. It's not about, you asked what I thought about them. Don't do that to yourself, Nick. You can talk about these dudes. They molded who you are as a broadcaster. It's okay to talk about them a little bit. What else do we got in this email, ladies and gentlemen? That's about it. I mean, you talk about authenticity. I think it's them. I think they're really, really good. What else is going on in the world? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Oh, so wow. Kamala Harris is actually going to be she's actually going to be the nominee. Looks like that's going to be the case. Looks like the ticket might end up being Kamala Harris and Donald Trump after the most successful day of fundraising that Democrats have ever had. Ever? And then how did all those people look that said Joe Biden was dead? What happened to that? I thought Joe Biden was dead. I just watched him on TV, live on my television last night. I watched him live addressing the nation for 13 minutes. I watched that shit. He was alive. It was literally the Kate Middleton situation 2.0. Like, people just like didn't. I agree that it was weird that like he announced that he was dropping out on a tweet and then we just like didn't see him. But then I was like, yeah, but you guys aren't thinking critically about this at all. He dropped out because of like his health, and he also has COVID, and he's also 1,000,000 years old. The dude's probably not in the best shape right now. Like, give him a minute to recover. It's the same reason. Like, remember when Kate Middleton? I say that like you guys are dialed into the royal family. I don't know if you are or not, but I am, right? So Kate Middleton the crown announces that she's going to like have some procedure done. And she's like, she will be absent from her royal duties for the next few months. They communicated that. And then like a few weeks later, people are like, where is Kate Middleton? Where is she? She's dead. William's cheating. And then that wasn't the case. And a couple more weeks go by and we found out, oh, she has cancer. Oh, she has cancer. So how did that one make everybody look? What happened to the right to medical privacy? I don't care how deplorable you think the royal family is. Whoops. Whoops-a-daisies. Just ended up being the same picture.jpg. Here's my problem. I absolutely refuse to let the DNC gaslight me into voting for another Yas Queen girl boss just because they're running against Donald Trump. What the fuck? No. No. What? I am not doing that. And then and when her HQ, their immediate plan of attack here, because Gen Z in all likelihood could swing this election, their plan of attack is like memes. They're like, let's like post a bunch of like funny Kamala shit to like some like Charlie XCX to the new Brat record and like vote for the feminine nomenon. Kamala Harris, 2024. How about the fact that she's a Fed? How about that? How about the fact that she's a Fed and is also, her and Joe have been locking up like basically the same amount of kids in cages at the border that Trump did? How about that? How about that boogeyman that you guys are also participating? How about that? How about the fact that motherfuckers are like, because I was wondering, I was like, is the best thing that Kamala Harris could do right now is be like, Palestinians are human beings. Is that the best thing that she could do? Because you talk about Gen Z swinging an election, and the reason that Joe was polling so poorly is because he was like, I am obsessed with Israel. And kids my age and younger were like, that's not chill at all. So it's the best thing that Kamala could have done, be like, hey, like, maybe we should. And then you see this, okay, so Netanyahu is going to be doing like a congressional address, but Kamala Harris is absent? Holy shit. Whoa. She's doing it. She's doing the thing. Whoa. She's going to win over her constituents by saying that Palestinians are human beings, really giving the middle finger to Satan Yahoo. And then it came out that, no, yeah, she's not going to the congressional hearing, but her and Biden will be having independent meetings with him the next day. Oh, whoops. Whoops. So what was that? What was that all about? What did you have going on? That was cute. That was cool. No, this sucks. I'm upset about this. It's a real conversation of abstaining, because for me, and I apologize to all of our, I don't need to apologize to the international listeners, because if you guys don't give a shit about this, then you would have already skipped it. So we're just going to, I guess, keep it rolling. It's a real conversation for me about abstaining. I live in Illinois. My vote does not matter. I get annoyed when people say their vote doesn't matter, because I believe truly that it does. I live in Illinois. There will never be an election that the state doesn't go blue because of Chicago. It does not matter who I write on the ballot. Do you know what I mean? Do you get what I'm saying here? So and you think these motherfuckers, do you think everybody here is not going to vote for Kamala Harris? Oh, okay. I can't do it. I can't do that shit. And for you to tell me, oh, Nick, if you don't vote for Kamala Harris, that just means that it's a vote for Donald Trump. It's Coke and Pepsi. It's the same picture.jpg. I'm not, what happened to like, it's like voting with your wallet, but like actually with your vote, by the way, and like holding parties accountable. It's like, we can have left wing and right wing, but the shit comes from the same bird. You know what I mean? Because modern day establishment Democrats are where? Slightly to the left of fucking Ronald Reagan, with a masquerade, with a COVID mask of progressive politics. Bullshit. Biden was saying that gay marriage was disgusting like 15 years ago. And then as soon as it was convenient for him to be like, actually, I think gay people should get married. I think that shit is awesome. It's not gross at all. Because it was convenient for him, right? Kamala Harris, we are not that far removed from her like throwing evidence out that would have gotten off like people, I fucked up the phrasing here. Locking motherfuckers up for weed possession, huh? Huh? The call is coming from inside the house. Kamala, what are you fucking talking about? I'm not voting for her. I can't do that. I cannot stomach that shit at all. Because my thing is, if you vote for a party or a person, specific, maybe I have that backwards, unconditionally, you're voting for a party unconditionally, first of all, you're not holding them accountable whatsoever. And it leads me to believe that, like, is this shit really about voting and turning out, or is it about, like, power and action? And I don't know, man. Like, another problem is, okay. Donald Trump becoming the president is the absolute worst case scenario for America for the next 4 years. Okay. So you think Kamala Harris becoming the only way that I think identity politics, by the way, actually plays a factor here. You think that his people, you think Donald Trump's boys are going to chill when a black woman is elected president? You think in 4 years it'll be a total reset and we'll be like back to normal, to like the Obama, John McCain debates and shit like that? And then being like, yes, what a gentlemanly scholar. No, probably not. But then you got to check yourself, right? And you say to yourself, Nick, why does the alt-right get to set the table? Why do these hardcore conservatives get to set the table for like how we shape America? Probably because there's more of them. And I think that America, it's just like you know what I mean? It's just because we could do the thing where we talk about how like diverse America is and like all this shit. And it is disingenuous for me to say that the alt-right, the QAnon alt-right is the majority. That is not true. That is not true. They've certainly proven to be the most actionable, though. I will keep saying it until one of you explains to me in plain English why I'm wrong about this. I don't think that the hard left knows how to protest at all. At all. Because when you think about the protests that were even happening in D.C. the other day, when Netanyahu was doing the address in front of Congress, and you have all these fuckers getting tear gassed and like they're spray painting like Hamas's slay and like kill Joe Biden. That'll do it. That'll do it. That ought to do the trick. To counter all of the Zionism with pro-Hamas rhetoric. I think that'll probably swing everybody in the right direction. For sure. There's no other middle ground whatsoever. And it actually does make sense to counter what you're talking about with literally the same picture of .jpg from the opposite side. Is the thing. And I'm not really trying to do, really not trying to do a pro-Hamas thing here. The only thing, no, don't do that. Don't do it. Don't do it. I think that political revolutionaries are seemingly a dying breed in the hands of, or at the hands of, is it contradicting to say oppressive governments? That political revolutionaries are a dying breed because of oppressive governments. I do believe that's either contradictory or an oxymoron. Let's move on to something else. I'm telling you right now, I can't vote for Kamala. And I would feel more comfortable not voting, to be honest with you. But where I check myself there is I was talking to my girlfriend about this last night. Even if I don't want Donald Trump to be president and I think he should be in jail, he could be president. And the consequences for me, this guy, with this lack of melanin, this pigment, I'm a ghost. This guy's not getting affected by it. It's easy for me to say that, right? I know how many of you listen to this show that would be affected by a Donald Trump presidency. Sure, I am affected because if they, keep tearing down like women's reproductive rights and shit like that, like, yes, of course I'm going to be affected just intrinsically through her, and I get it. You don't explain that to me. And I get that there are a lot of you out there that would be agitated because it's easy for me to not feel as much consequence there, but I would just ask all of you to not blindly do it. And to just like, and if you're younger, this is your first election, don't listen to your parents. Do not let your parents influence who you are voting for. That's such a real thing, dude. For what it's worth, actually, I'm 1 for 1 in elections. I could have voted in 2016. I turned 18 that year. I just didn't register because, like a lot of other people my age, we didn't think we had to. We thought it was in the bag because that's what the news told us. That's what the news told us. That's what the polls told us. And then election night told us something else. And a lot of us said, okay, we need to take this a little bit more seriously. And then 2020 rolls around, COVID year, and they wheeled Joe Biden's ass up there. I sat in the polling booth, and my precinct was like all pickup trucks and like MAGA flags. And it felt weird because I was like, I'm voting for Joe. And I just fucking skedaddled out of there. I'm 1 for 1 in elections. All right? So my vote matters here a lot because my field goal percentage is 100%. Kamala needs this vote, son. You know what I mean? So maybe I'm talking myself into... Well, no, I'm not talking myself into voting for her. I guess I'm just talking myself into believing that this vote fucking matters. This vote right here, this one that I have, this one matters more than most. What else is going on in the world, folks? You know, we got an email from another dude. I guess actually it was a follow-up from John. He was the one who sent in the how do you get over yourself email last week. That's how we ended the show. And John sent a follow-up actually 4 hours ago. John, welcome back to the show. I don't really know where I want to... let's just read the whole thing. Hey, Nick, thanks for reading my email on the show. I appreciated hearing your perspective on the situation, and it led me to reflect more about how the shame I feel gets in my way. For the record, I wasn't disappointed in the show just because you were hard on yourself. It's a hard habit to break when we grow up thinking that way. My dad would always give me the 3rd degree growing up, so that's where I think that voice originates for me. Do you know where that hypercritical voice comes from for you? What purpose do you think it serves? And then parenthetically, non-judgmental. I only have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I've never met you, but based on what you've communicated, IFS, or internal family systems therapy, might help. I don't know what that is. I'll have to look into it. So there are layers to this. One, just on the therapy front, I believe I may have talked about this before, but hey man, every time we upload an episode here at the Coping Hour, there will be at least one person who's never listened to the program before, and this is why I always say the art of repeating yourself is a good thing. It is a good thing sometimes, right? Get your best takes out there, get your best stories out there, repeat them a few times. It's okay to do that. So the first time I went to therapy, I was 15-ish. I was like a sophomore in high school. So it was about 11 years ago. And there was a website at the time called ask.fm. If you're around my age, you will be familiar with this. I think in some form it does still exist, but it was very unregulated back then. So all the website was people could ask you anonymous questions. And when you're in high school, that's fun because people would just ask you crazy shit. Like, it's fun when you're in high school. Like, what are people going to ask me? You know what I mean? So one night, I was like in bed, like getting ready. Like, I was all right, going to sleep. Got to go to school in the morning. And this this person was on my account asking me a bunch of anonymous questions. But they weren't questions. They were like, kill yourself. And it was like, it was just relentless for like 2 hours. And me being like a 15-year-old, I was like replying to them. And all your replies are, you're replying to the questions is public. The problem was I had also linked it to my Twitter. So every time I would answer a question, it would also post the question and the answer to my Twitter. I wasn't clocking that at the time. So I'm just like going back and forth with this person who's like, kill yourself for like 2 hours. And I'm 15. Like, I'm just like, all right, bet I will. Like, bitch. I get to school the next day. People are like being weird. And again, I just wasn't really figuring out why. I get to second hour. I get called down to the office. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, I don't get in trouble. I did not do anything. And it was the counselor. And they were like, hey, we had a lot of people like not send in complaints, but you know what I'm saying? They like sent in some like anonymous tips being like, hey, want to maybe just do a check on this kid. So they called my parents and my dad came and picked me up. And then they put me in therapy. And so I went and I saw that dude a couple times. Probably the worst I don't think he should have had a license, because his way of making me feel better about my issues as a 15-year-old was to tell me the issues of all of his other patients. He was like, you think that's bad? Listen to this guy. Listen to my 230. Listen to how fucked up he was. I was like, dog, whoa, what is this? So maybe after like a month, I was like, I'm not going to that dude anymore. And I don't remember it was probably about a year and a half later. I was like a junior in high school, and I don't remember why, but I got put back in therapy, and it was like a long drive, had to go to, it was like a 45-minute drive. It was in Ann Arbor. And this guy was actually a women's basketball coach at Central, so he would reserve the last 5 minutes of each session for us to talk hoops, because he knew that's what I cared about, right? And that part of it was cool, but because he gave me the agency to do that, I would often try to derail the session just to talk about hoops. And he would be like, no, we'll do that later. And then a lot of the time we just didn't. He would just skip it. Fuck you, Dennis. He was okay. He just bullied me. Like in a way that it wasn't like, it's one thing if you're like razzing me a little bit and you're like giving me some tough love, but he was just like he's mean to me. And then eventually they had me fill out like a 400 question like personality test. I sat in this fucking room for like an hour. And then at one point, I just said, fuck it. And I just started filling anything out. I did not care. Scantron bullshit. B, B, C, A, D, A, B, B. I didn't care. I was in there way too long. I said, I'm fucking crazy then. I'm crazy then. Never got the results to that. And then eventually was just like, I'm not seeing this dude anymore. My experience with therapy, if you haven't been able to tell, has just been bad because I haven't had the right therapist. And because all of that happened to me when I was in like very formative times, very impressionable times, it turned me off to therapy in a lot of ways, despite the fact that I know all I need to do is actually find the right therapist, right? Because it's not the medium that I have an issue with. It was the people that were, it was the therapist that I had the problem with. And so I don't bullshit when I say that this is therapy for me. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to myself. What I'm looking at right now is me in the monitor. But it's, you know what I mean? Like it's different than looking down the barrel of a camera. I'm doing this so that I'm talking to myself. And I don't think that is sufficient enough. I think it is good to actually have somebody maybe talk me through some shit. The other part of the email here, dude, is like, where does that voice originate? I don't know. And when I read that right before I started recording that very specific part, I was like, whoa, fuck. I don't know. I haven't thought about it like that. Because if I try to think about it in real time, I don't think, like, my relationship, and I can say this because he does not fucking listen to the show. My relationship with my dad, I don't think it's him, because it's not like I don't think he was ever disappointed, and I don't think he ever cared that much. I do believe he loves us, and I believe that he thinks he cares. But like, I texted him, when did College Football 25 came out? The day that the game came out. We don't talk that much about. Let me just, honestly, maybe it's weird for me to, I don't need to do a whole bunch of family drama, but he's just like, I just texted him a picture of the main menu, and I was like, look, dude, like, the game's out. Still hasn't texted me back about that. While also at the same time, I'm like not talking to my mom, and that's just because I am harsh and unforgiving to a fault. And even if I believe that I'm justified in what I'm upset about, I'm not going to get over it anytime soon. And so I'm not speaking. And then with my dad, it's like, I don't fucking hear from him anyways. So it's really hard, not to make this about something else, fucking really hard to be going through what my girlfriend and I are going through, or just to not, I mean, guys, I should make this specifically about me in this instance. Really hard to go through what I'm going through emotionally and just not have your parents. And just not have that support system. It's fucking hard. Right? Like I had like a full breakdown last night. It's like I was freaking out because it hit me. I was like, I realized why I'm feeling so isolated is because I don't have anybody. Like, I love her family. And like I mentioned, our in-laws, her mom and brother and his wife, they were in town last week. I fucking love them. I very much consider her family to be my family, but it's not the same thing. I'd love for I don't think the voice comes from either of my parents. I'm not saying this to like make it sound like, I think it's just always been me that's been critical of me. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to like trace it back or, what I could really identify, but I've just always been miserable and it's just insanely critical of everything that I do. And I think also maybe some of it, even though I mentioned briefly about how like my mom and my grandma really tried to get me into like theater and fucking drama and all that stuff. Outside of that, I don't know if I ever really felt supported in a lot of stuff. And I think maybe that's why I'm so reliant on what you tell me to do. I'm saying you, the person listening to this, when you leave a comment, when you send me an email, you give me like real life feedback, not just like, hey, you sound high when you do the email. What the fuck am I supposed to do with that, bro? When you give me legitimate feedback, I think it's because that's where the validation shit comes from, is because my entire life, I've never felt confident in whatever lane I wanted to be in because I didn't feel like I had the support elsewhere. Does that make sense? So that's been tough. I also used to always have issues because I was just a shithead kid. Like I didn't do anything wrong. Like I wasn't like doing drugs and like as like a 15-year-old and getting drunk. Like I was a good kid. I didn't do my schoolwork, but I was never late to class. I didn't get in trouble. Like I wasn't fucking around. I wasn't skipping class. None of that. I wasn't doing any of that. I never got in trouble. None of that. But my brother, who was the same way, was good at everything. And so I remember he's a year older than me, and I remember we were on his visit to Grand Valley State, and I was just like, at the time I knew not only was I not going to college, I was not even going to graduate high school. Both ended up being true. I did not yet understand that your path is not defined by whether or not you have a fucking diploma from high school. Because at the time, that's the only world that you know. It's the only reality that you can. And so I remember my mom being like, what is your deal today? And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not him. Sorry about that. It's a shitty thing to say to your parents, honestly. Even if I felt it at the time, and looking back on it, I'm like, I understand why I felt that way. It wasn't fair of me to say that. And to this day, man, when I say it, I'm harsh and unforgiving to a fault. I do not know how to hide my emotions when I'm upset. I'm just I try really hard to be kind, but I don't think very hard about things before I say them. It's all impulse, and it just kind of, So, I really appreciate you reaching back out here. Probably not going to do the therapy thing just because I don't have time and I don't have insurance. We were talking about getting married recently. We were like, we should probably just do that, right? We should probably just do that. And then because yes, we love each other, of course. But at this point, it's like government shit that we need. I need insurance. It's like green card, but for like therapy. You know what I mean? So hi, maybe, right? What's the problem with BetterHelp? I don't remember what the problem that everybody got. BetterHelp got canceled. Hey, speaking of getting canceled, I've still gone back and forth on whether or not I think that's real. I think as a side note, I don't think Gone are the days of it's not getting canceled. It's just being held accountable. Nope. That's not how that works. But the word canceled to me has now become so ironic that it's hilarious to me. And I just use it as like a catch-all term. It's the funniest shit in the world to me. But speaking of all that shit, the Ava Tyson from Mr. Beast, whoa, alleged pedophile. Whoa. Whoops. And then also on the margins, there's a bunch of shit coming out about Mr. Beast and like, I don't know, people. There's like a dude who did like an AMA on Reddit. He's like, I worked for Mr. Beast for 4 months. Ask me anything. I saw some disgusting shit. And you always knew at some point, like, so what is it going to be with Mr. Beast? Like when something comes out about him and we fucking, I don't think we thought it was going to be the I don't need to keep saying Chris Tyson, Ava Tyson. I don't think we thought it was going to be that. But anybody who thought that you weren't going to have some, I don't know, worker rights issues or issues with fucking surprise mechanics and manipulating kids. Oh. And it's too, but it's also is the take that's probably one of the more, I think something else that he said was that he claims that Jimmy puts all of his cool, expensive shit under like business expense. So that way he can claim that he doesn't own anything extravagant, but like in reality, and I was like, yeah. I don't know what Mr. Beast did to people that they all think that he's fucking Jesus Christ. And then like he's impervious to like maybe possibly being kind of a shitty guy, like a little bit. You think what happened to like kill all billionaires, by the way? That like motherfucking, so if like, not that Jeff Bezos and Mr. Beast have the same amount of money, but do you think that you can have an allotment of cash that high and like not be an asshole? And not have skeletons in your closet? You're like, what? You're like, huh? Dumb. What else do I got for you guys before we wrap up the show? I'm just like so lost in college football 25. Guys, I can't stop playing this game. Cannot stop playing this game. And my problem is I don't want to leave Eastern Michigan. Dog, the feeling when you're at, I don't know how many of you are doing like a dynasty and you like purposely pick like a shittier school so that way you can raise them from the ashes. When you get your first 3-star recruit, you're like, oh my God, it's happening. Then you get your first 4-star. I'm on like year 5 of this dynasty and we're finally about to get a 5-star and we might get 2 of them, by the way. It's an awesome game. It's the most fun I've ever had playing a sports game. Ever. Alrighty, folks. If you are listening to this on Spotify, be sure to rate 5 stars. If you are listening to this on, did I say Spotify? YouTube. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Nice little comment for the algorithm. Believe we nailed everything today. I think we covered all the bases. Alrighty, folks. Love you all very much. copingoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email in the description wherever you listen to the show. A lot of great emails that I was not able to get to today. Keep firing, guys. You are all truthfully really helping me in a way that I just appreciate how not parasocial you guys are that listen to the show, and the barrier that is typically between creator and viewer isn't there because it doesn't need to be. And I'm still struggling with the merch shit just because I don't know if I can do it to you guys. I don't know if I can stomach like asking you guys to, and I'm just communicating that to you. I'm not trying to make you convince me to, oh no, Nick, hey, everybody's got to make some money somehow. I'm not asking you to tell me that. I don't want you to tell me that because I get that. But I'm just letting you know. Honestly, it goes back to not to sound like super corny and like I am kind of about to throw up that I'm even about to say this. It kind of goes back to like the artist versus the entrepreneur thing that I was talking about earlier. I don't do this because I want to make money. This show makes zero money. It is not profitable at all. And it feels very late stage coping hour to do merch, no matter how bad you guys want it. It's just something that I personally need to just get over. And then and it's not even that fucking serious, by the way, but to me it is. And then the other part of it is, even when I do finally decide this is it, we're doing it, merch, all right, let's do it, it's still going to be probably like a month before it even launches, because I will want to order everything so that A, I can show all of it to you guys, like, so you can, see, and B, so I can quality check it, because I don't want to push it onto the store and then find out that the way that it gets printed is actually like kind of shitty, and like the quality of it isn't that, if the images are like not that good or something, like, you know what I mean? So I would want to do it. So it'll still be like by the beginning of the NBA season at the latest is when it would be, but that's an absolute worst case scenario. And that's assuming that I even convince myself to do it. So, okay, folks, Spotify, 5 stars, YouTube, leave a like, subscribe, nice little comment for the algorithm. I will catch you guys in the next one.